Welcome to the Prowler Podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have Sylvester Lee with us, and we're going to dive into his college and professional journey in football, and we'll also shed light on his recruiting experience from Heritage High School in Conyers, Georgia, to Georgia Tech University. And Sylvester brings a unique perspective to the table due to also being heavily involved in the NIL space with today's sports. So, without further ado, let's turn over to Sylvester as he introduces himself and shares more about his background.
Well, nice to meet you all. First off, Sylvester is my name. But in college and high school, my name was different. All my teammates and coaches, they know me as Jerome Lee. So I guess that's what I will introduce. I guess that's my football name, right?
Jerome Lee?
On the back of my jersey was Jay Lee. And I'll grab one of my jerseys and show my helmet in a moment. But, so I played wide receiver for Heritage High School in Conyers, Georgia. I guess we didn't even throw the ball that much in high school. I was known as a wide blocker, right? And my high school career, it ended, and I felt like I had more to give to the sport. I love football, and so I decided to walk on at Georgia Tech. I had an academic scholarship to Georgia Tech, and I still wanted to play ball, so I got offered the opportunity from Coach George O'Leary to come in as a preferred walk-on, and that's how it all began.
That's awesome. Walk-ons are a big part of a college program, and then it kind of scares me. Kirby and Lane Kiffin talk about it. NCAA is talking about maybe taking walk-ons away, and that's really just They're great. I know a bunch of kids that, are walk-ons at Ole Miss, and they're great kids, and they're very positive and keep the team, going.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think the walk-on is very integral part to the team. My tenure at Georgia Tech, we went to the bowl game 3 times. I have a ACC championship ring, and I don't think that those championships would have been won without the walk-ons. And the walk-on is a volunteer basically for the team. And, it's basically about going out there showing the offense or the defense a good look, and, being a part of the team still just as important. But if you don't have those walk-ons out there, you don't have enough people to show the 11 on 11 where your offensive people can have the 2 deep to get the reps that they need in order to make it out there on Saturday.
Right. That's absolutely correct. And, some of those walk-ons turn to be some of the greatest players we ever see. One of the examples is lately Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett at Georgia went on to take his team to the first 2 national championships in the last, I think, 16 or 18 years, and then you look back at Clay Matthews at USC. Nobody ever thought he would get a chance, and he was a Hall of Fame linebacker, out of USC, as a walk-on. So
Baker Mayfield too. Baker Mayfield, Heisman winner.
Nice. Yep.
The list goes on and on. It just
was Cooper Kupp, wasn't he a walk-on?
No, he went on a partial scholarship to Eastern Washington.
But
he plays like a walk-on, man. He has a lot of heart. That's what I like about the walk-ons, man. You got to love the sport, man, because you're going to be out there taking a beating for free, man. Yep. With the hope of getting out there on the field,
Was Tyreek Hill walk? I know he went to a community college, right? And then he went to
he walked on at West Alabama. He was never thought of, and nobody ever thought he would. Nobody ever thought he would get drafted out of there as a D2 receiver, but he got shot out in the 7th round. So it just shows you that if you don't give up that dream, don't give up. But also, I hope the NCAA doesn't shut that door, because it's a special place for a lot of special athletes.
They contribute so much to the teams they play for. And like Sylvester said, you got to have those 11 guys during practice, during the week, for the big games, giving you that look. And, what are you going to do if you don't have that? But, Sylvester, through high school, can you walk us through the steps you took to increase your chances of being recruited, or did you even take those steps in high school? When you got to Georgia Tech, what was your mindset there?
Well, I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. So, I think the constant training year round, I think that helped out a lot, especially in the different skill set. Playing baseball, it translated very quickly over to a receiver to be able to have quick hands and be able to catch the ball. Running track, of course, is helping the speed. And I was the open quarter county champion, and I went state a couple times too. So yeah, man, it's being a multiple sports helps prepare you for the next level.
Multiple sports, good grades, like you said, training year round, playing multiple sports.
Hey, I didn't even mention the good grades, man. Let me back up on that, because to get into Georgia Tech, you're not going to be able to get into there without having good grades, man. And so my love for math, it kind of catapulted that. Being able to have a high IQ, it translated into the different sports as well. You're able to pick up things quickly. And I didn't start playing football till the 9th grade. So,
and hearing Urban Meyer talk about it, and even Kirby, he talked about it when I went to the football camp there. Multiple sport athletes. That's what coaches look for. They live and breathe on multiple sport athletes. You see these kids playing basketball, football, baseball, and like you look at Russell Wilson, look at Kyler Murray, these guys playing, getting drafted for baseball, but then choosing, imagine being able to choose if you're going to play pro baseball or pro football. Like, that's ideal. And so these coaches definitely, they look for multiple sport athletes, and it's track, like Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, they're all doing that track stuff now too. And but what like during that, what were some of your key actions or like strategies, during the off season, like when you weren't in a sport, like what did you do like to implement your skill during that time?
I would say the biggest impact on my athletic career probably was weightlifting. Up until the 9th grade or high school, it wasn't something that was, coached or preached or introduced. So that was my first introduction to weightlifting, and doing that in the off season, learning how to power clean and deadlift and different things like that, doing the calisthenics, the boxes, I would say were some big helps and things that I wouldn't normally have had previous.
And Preston, we haven't even talked about this, like with Belhaven. Like, what can you tell these kids, like in the weight room? Like, how hard, what did y'all do? Like, how hard do they push you in the weight room so they know, what to expect?
Yeah. Like when I first came on at Belhaven, the program wasn't that, strenuous and tough. We kind of were like free on our own, did what we wanted, and just took our steps ourselves, And but then once Coach Wood and Coach McCorkle took over the program, we had summer workouts and everything that would, put us on a timeline to get stronger, and we would take pictures of us to get to that point. And it was pretty cool to see our transformation, through that summer program and stuff. So
my buddy Andrew Agapos, he plays at Arkansas State. I think Butch is still there, right? Butch Jones.
Yeah, Butch Jones is still the head coach there. Yeah.
From the start of 2021 to now, he looks like a Wolverine now. Mm-hmm. And if y'all saw those pictures of USC guys, did y'all see the pictures of the USC guys from this? It's the transformation is insane, and that's all in the weight room. That's all in the weight room. These guys, they almost look like they're juicing, like they need to be tested or something. But these guys, like they went from like being scrawny to being like the big, like wow, like DK Metcalfs. I'm like wow. But Sylvester, I see you got your Georgia Tech helmet there,
sir.
You got the yellow jackets there.
That's awesome. That's the real team in Georgia right there.
And I went and got my jersey, man, to show we had some Gator Bowl love there, man.
I know Ole Miss went to the Gator Bowl a lot.
And you see, I wore the number 1, man. That was the only number that was that would fit on me, man. I was the smallest guy on the team.
Uno. That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. Hey, did Georgia Tech run the triple option when you were there?
No, we did run the option. We did run the option, but it was not the triple option. If we would have ran the triple option, man, we would have won a national championship with Joe Hamilton, because we had 10-win seasons, 2 10-win seasons while I was there, and we beat the Bulldogs, man. We beat the Bulldogs twice. Yeah, man.
I remember in the early 2000s, y'all beat the Bulldogs a lot. Preston would end up crying a lot. I remember that. Remember that? That's when y'all were. I mean, y'all were pretty solid. They
were solid. That's when they were running that triple option. They were eating some people's lunch, man.
Oh yeah.
Sylvester, you were at the Yellow Jackets from '96 to '98.
I got there in '98. I was there from '98 to 2002.
So he was there for a couple of those games that they beat us.
Yeah. I got a couple, man. Yeah,
Sylvester, I know it's changed probably a lot. You know, everything has changed in the college football atmosphere now. But what can you tell these kids what to expect when they get to a D1 level like you were at? You know, what's your off season like? What's your in season like? You know, what's all the experiences around games. You know, preparing for games. You know, recovery after games. All the aspects. What can you tell these kids about that?
I can tell them just to be ready to work. You know what I mean? Love it. You're gonna be in the ice baths a lot. You know what I mean? Your body's gonna go through a shock initially. You know what I mean? It's gonna be the toughest physical activity that you've ever experienced before in your life. And I think a lot of times in today's sporting, a lot of the kids are prepared a little bit more maybe than I felt like I was, because it was a complete shock to my body. I felt like I was out there. See, I was a walk-on, so I felt like I was just pushed to the limit, almost made wanting to quit. You know what I mean? But having a love for the sport, it should drive you through those practices when you want to hurl and you know, get it out your system. You know, you'll feel a lot better after you get through that, and you know, just nothing's gonna deter me, and you know, but what makes it all worth it is getting to that game day. When you get into that stadium, and this is especially for the Division 1A schools, once you get into the stadium and you hear that crowd roaring and you get to come through the tunnel, man, you're hooked. You're hooked from that moment on. There's nothing you want to do. It's like the adrenaline goes through the roof, man, and then you feel like you can just run through the wall, man. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're going to change the way kickoffs are done eventually, but man, I'm telling you, like, there's nothing like being on the special teams, going down and trying to just blast somebody, man.
Yeah, I mean, even in the crowd, you know, you get chill bumps when they're like the team's running out. I couldn't imagine, you know, that's the energy, and the energy is tripled like every single year. It gets better and better. Like the energy of college football, you know, the anticipation of the season gets higher and higher every single year, because, you know, you got all these big shots coming in every year. Like, oh, I want to see that team play. I want to see it. It's just the anticipation builds more and more every single year. And I think that's what's so great about college football. You know, NFL, you know, you kind of know what to expect every single year now. You know, you got Patrick Mahomes on a hot streak here. We need to probably stop that. You know, my Cowboys win the Super Bowl, but
before he's too quick, huh?
I don't know if there's anybody that can stop him. Maybe Tom Brady come back from retirement, but that's about it.
Go.
No, I think Dak Prescott's got it. He's got
it. Dak Prescott? Oh man. I think Baker Mayfield got a better shot than he got.
Nah, come on, dude. We got the best team in the league.
You're a Cowboy fan?
I'm a Cowboys fan.
Okay. Cowboys. I got you. All right, let's get CeeDee Lamb signed.
Yeah, we need to get him paid ASAP.
That's right.
Hey, talk to your boy Jerry Jones. Tell him he's got to step up.
He's got to open that wallet, huh?
Yeah, he does. He's got it. I know he does. He's got it. Why are we not paying? Why are we not paying the star?
But you know, Sylvester, you talk about all the pressure you got coming to game day. You know, people also oversleep. You know, academics. You went to a big academic school. Talk about like how you balance that out, because I know at the program I was when I first came in there, I think our team GPA was like a 2.9. It was trash. It was terrible. And
okay. Yeah, well, I'm not going to reveal what my GPA was, because it was pretty much a struggle to get through some of that stuff. But being a student athlete, there are things in place for you the athletic association, they support you. You're able to have those tutors and things like that. In my situation, if I didn't produce the grades, my parents weren't going to allow me to play on the college level. So like I have them on my back to well, first off, no one thought that I was going to make the team, right? And having my parents on my back on the academic side of it, I'm grateful for that because it's really ultimately why I've chosen the profession that I've chosen and where I am today. So I give them all the much respect for pushing me in the academic side of it.
Right, and I feel like some high school athletes coming in, going into a program, they were nervous about academics in a way, but you have all the tools in place for you to succeed in the classroom, and they they have all those tools, so you don't have to worry about your grades, and then you get on, so you don't have to worry about that. So when you're on the field, you're focused on football, But
absolutely, and just to being able to find something that you may be passionate about doing for the long term, or something that's going to be a good foundation of where you can get the jobs that you would like as you graduate. Because a lot of people aren't going to the NFL, and you just have to have a good plan to keep moving forward.
Correct. And, a lot of people, I mean, my second coach of college preached this, a lot of corporations, look towards college athletes because they know they've been through that strenuous program and got that work ethic. They had two lives they had to balance. You got athletic, you got study playbook, right? You got study film, and then you got the academics. We both did computer science, Sylvester. That's a big balance there. You're knee deep in a laptop most of the time. We're knee deep in a playbook. You don't get a rest. So
that's right.
It's huge. I can't tell you how many times I was in the computer lab. Where our kind of computer science room was with our laptops and everything and desktops, and I'll be there till like midnight, and then gotta go home, sleep, and then be back up for weights and workouts at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to teach you life, man.
What does y'all's GPA end up being, like the team's GPA end up being when you left, Preston?
I think it was when I left, it was a 3.4. And wow. I think this past year before Coach McCorkle left to go to Northwestern State in Louisiana, it was a 3.6.
Oh wow.
So he completely turned the program around. And I mean, that was seen on the field and off the field. That whole culture was different.
Yeah.
That's big time, man.
In high school too, you have to balance a lot in high school. Being a kid, obviously, and maturing, you still got school, you got practice, you got weights, and then you got to focus on getting recruited. What in sports camps and showcases, Sylvester, what's your opinion on those? What do you think about those?
I think those are really good to be able to get out and get camaraderie with other players around the country, around the globe. And what I think ends up happening if an athlete can be open to it is you can learn different moves from guys that you may not be competing directly against, but people in your same specialty, to where it takes you and it gives you an advantage when you go back to your region and your town, so it should give you a lot more confidence that you have some extra, moves and skills that no one has seen before, if you can be open to picking up those things in those camps and those showcases. Yep.
Yeah, I think there's some camps that you probably shouldn't mess with. Some of them aren't very serious, but like Preston always preaches, if a college if a college invites you and it's like a bunch of colleges, a mega camp coming together to watch, obviously you have to show out, but you're going to be seen if you have any type of skill, right? And so I think opportunities like that, you got showcases like Rivals, Adidas Rivals, and you got Under Armour, All American, that stuff. And that's for like all these big kids, 3-star, 4-star, 5 stars. But Preston, speak on what your opinion is on the showcases and everything.
And are those full pad showcases?
No. Well, actually, yes.
There's some that are. Will, was the one you went to down in Florida one?
Yes. Hang on one second. Present talk.
So, no, so the showcases I always push them to is the college prospect ones, that went on by the college semester, because I feel like if they're being invited by that college, that means that coach already has an eye on them. And I influence them to do that, because if that coach has directly reached out to you to recruit you to come to their camp, that means you're not just another dollar sign on their paycheck.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So any of my Prowler athletes I get, I always advise that, no matter what sport, because it's the same across the board. Every sport's the same. Now, there is some camps that are beneficial to go get exposure to see if you can, possibly get a star rating, like the U.S. Army Bowl Combine is one of the major ones I push my athletes to if they do get invited, because U.S. Army Bowl Combine is one of the most official, non-college camps. If you get invited to that, you can play in Arlington, Texas at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, at the end of the year. And only, I think, like 62 players out of the whole United States get selected for that game. So you're putting yourself in a different echelon once you do that, different category. So that's my take on the camps. I strongly encourage the prospect camp specifically that's put on by the University of College, because you get direct exposure to the school. You're on campus, and I always categorize it higher is if the coach has directly reached out to you and invited you, I think it's a no-brainer to go, because that coach knows about you, and you need to go show your face to him and meet him.
I strongly encourage the 7-on-7, because that's where a lot of these kids get their offers, the 7-on-7 camps, because you're playing, against other people. You're playing like nonstop against other people. Get on a 7-on-7 team and go play during the off season, because that's where a lot of recruiters are going to go, and you will get offers if you're showing how, because they can see you on the field playing in the off season.
Well, that's if you're a skills player, that shows DBs and receivers' feet work tremendously. Sylvester can talk to that, because feet work as a receiver and a defensive back is crucial at the college level. We see receivers like Puka Nacua this past year in his rookie year. He's not the fastest guy, but his footwork off his breaks is what creates his separation for him. That's what's made him almost one of the rookie of the year receivers last year, So that's what 7-on-7 can show these coaches, So
Yep.
But switching to the NIL side of things, Sylvester, I know what's your experiences with NIL so far?
I would say I'm at the ground level with the NIL pieces. I have experienced a little bit in regards to the NIL side, and I've experienced a little bit from the player agent side on the professional side. Okay. So knowing the rules and regulations for both of them has been a nice little transition, but the NIL is pretty much wide open to make it seem like the professionals. Yep. It's almost like having an agent is like your NIL representative and they're funneling a lot of the sponsorships and things like that to you. You're needing to have like a financial planning and things like that, because if you get a lot of money at a young age and you don't do the right things with it, then and you don't make it to the next level, you had your shot as a college athlete to really put some money away. And so it's important to be able to make the right decisions with these opportunities that are coming about.
This is gonna be awesome. We're actually gonna take a really deep dive in this. So that's as you know now, what you know so far, Sylvester. What's the challenges and benefits that come with NIL deals?
Well, it's being legit is one. Some kids could be promised the world, and then they keep their end of the bargain, and they put on a face for the companies that say that they want the representation, and those companies could get the representation from the athlete and not pay them if the deals aren't structured correctly. So I think there's a lot of opportunities that the athletes can be taken advantage of if they don't have the proper representation. That's one of the biggest things that I've seen.
Because they don't always have the knowledge, you know. They're high school kids. They're still learning accounting at the basics, you know. Because trust me, our high schools nowadays don't teach you really what financial advice is truly. So these kids are a lot of time going these meetings blind and they don't know what they're always signing, you know. I mean, I don't know exactly to the details of what happened between Florida and that Georgia quarterback now, but that's an example, you know. There's a disagreement there clearly, you know. So
that was a $10 million fumble right there that you're speaking of. Yeah, man, that was a big deal.
What happened with that? So I know I've learned a little bit about it, but what happened with that? So,
like, you want to talk about that one, Preston?
I don't have many deep details in it. I don't know if you do, Sylvester. I just know that it was a $10 million deal that was lost, but I know Billy Napier pretty much said it was never really set in stone. But you know, that's right. That's when you get in that sticky zone. You know, when you start verbally saying things and offering, but then it never comes true. But then that kid also needs to follow through and be like, hey, I needed some paperwork writing, you know, because if you don't have it in paperwork writing, it don't mean nothing at the end of the day. That's in any kind of business. That's in any kind of legality nowadays.
Right. And so that's why the representation is very important. We've seen in the NFL one successful player represent himself in Lamar Jackson most recently, right? And I'm sure there are a couple of others, but that was a big deal, and it's usually not worth the hassle to kind of and the organizations, they are set up to deal with lawyers and businesses. They're not set up to deal with individuals representing themselves. So that's a big reason why you have to have the correct representation, because you have to have the right people reading the paperwork. A lot of times the athletes are not going to read the paperwork, or their parents may not even read the paperwork. They just want the bottom line. You know what I mean? And so that's why it's important to have those quote unquote agents. We're not going to call them agents because that's the wrong thing to say. But an agent is essentially a lawyer. You know what I mean? Most of those agents have an MBA and a law degree. You know what I mean? And it's for a reason why they have those credentials. And in the NIL space, you see a lot of business representation in regards to that, but it's going to be the same thing like an agent. You want the law piece of it. You want the legal side of it, so you don't get messed over in the process.
Correct. I remember watching the Netflix series Ballers, and it's like a bunch of have y'all seen that?
Oh yeah.
I remember there for a second. I was wanting to be like a little, you know, sports agent. That was pretty good series. It showed a lot of you know, what they do. And there was one little guy, I think he was like, he knew all the law side around it, and then The Rock, he was in there, and he was you know, actually he played ball, so he knew like all these guys and got them, you know, deals and stuff. But you know, nowadays, Sylvester, come out of high school, how can it's kind of affecting high school recruiting in a way because the portal's so big. You know, the changes in the recruiting and playing experience with the advent of NIL. How is that affecting things?
Well, you know, some of the big time programs, they're even more big time, so to speak, you know, meaning they have more money to spend around, you know. So what does that mean for the smaller schools? You know, it means that they're going to have to be more creative, but they're going to still have to put some dollar bills, some money where their mouth is, you know, to make it attractive to get these players to come to their schools and perform for them. So it just is almost like the big schools can stay big by spending money on the athletes, whereas it used to be just under the table. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, we talk about this. NIL is coming to the high school now because NIL got approved in Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida now in the Southeast. So
yes, sir.
I don't know how you're going to incorporate a agent at that level, but you're going to need some kind of advice.
Yes, you're gonna need some representation, and you don't want to get too long of a deal to where you're tied in to a deal that may not be a good deal for you. Correct. And your future.
Right.
But yeah, we're gonna see a lot of lawsuits, man. That's all I can tell you.
Tons.
But all the big recruits are gonna be with that. All the big quarterbacks, like all the 5 stars, 4 stars, they're definitely gonna be getting those NIL deals, and that's when they need to know. They probably already have people representing them though, because they already have people coming to them. I'm sure now, especially with NIL and being approved, but they definitely need someone to represent them and walk them through the process. You don't want, like Sylvester said, you don't want to be tied into something for too long, and you need to know what to do and what not to do and what deal seems the most legit.
Well, at the end of the day, you just need to know what you're signing is the bottom line.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the person in history that probably is known for having the worst contract, and I'll switch sports just for a second, is probably Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
Scottie Pippen had the worst contract ever, man. And he was just a country guy that was happy to be in the NBA, and whatever deal he had, they got over on him,
Man, they did for sure. Because don't get me wrong, Michael Jordan created that team, but Pippen was his sidekick. That's who helped create his legacy to a certain extent. And man, that poor guy got. Man, if you actually read up in some of his, I guess you call them blogs or diaries of his, career, it's pretty interesting because dude did not get paid nowhere near what he needed to be. Well, nowhere near what he deserved.
Yep,
but. You need to be careful too, because what happens when an NFL, like the big guys, when the NFL and NBA guy messes up, like what happens then? Because that company's name is representing you too.
Oh, so yeah.
So you have a young high school, college kid. They're more likely to mess up than an NFL, NBA player, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need somebody like that because you're representing that company too. Like say you're representing Wendy's, because if you mess up, that deal's gone, and you may never get another deal again because those companies are going to be so, oh, that kid messed up. He's probably going to mess up again. And so there's a lot to it. It's a lot to handle, especially for a high school kid now that that's coming around. But I think it's a great opportunity, though. It all
absolutely.
is.
Absolutely. I was glad to see, speak of one of those mess ups, I was glad to see Reggie Bush get his Heisman Trophy reinstated back to him because, hey, man, it's just –
Reggie Bush.
Come on now. That was a big deal, man.
Don't get me wrong. It might not have been all the way legal what he did, but how many other players have done that,
How can you take a Heisman Trophy away from Reggie Bush?
Taken away from any player, and plus I feel like Reggie Bush's era was one of the last eras that the Heisman Trophy actually meant something. The past few years, I don't think the Heisman Trophy winner or anyone actually deserved it. I think it's all political propaganda. Don't even get me on the Heisman Trophy.
I'm sorry.
Because I'm not a fan of the past few years, the trend that we're heading with that trophy. Because I get the quarterback is a glamorous spot, but everything. But there's a lot of other players that go unseen, on these rosters every year that deserve a lot more. Like Will Anderson. I'm not an Alabama fan, but the dude that he got on the stage, but as a defensive player, that dude deserved the Heisman Trophy that year. He deserved it over his
Devontae Smith won it. Is that when Devontae Smith won it?
Yeah, that was when Devontae Smith
won it. Yeah, Devontae Smith. He dude, come on. It was Devontae Smith.
I don't know. You can go both ways.
He beat y'all. He won the game for Alabama against Georgia Bulldogs.
Okay, if you go read up what the Heisman Trophy means, it means the player with the most integrity and the most impact on the field. It doesn't say stats. It doesn't say anything on that.
Most impactful. And what was the other qualification?
The highest integrity.
Yeah, I would say Devontae Smith was pretty impactful winning them the national championship. So, come on. I would say he's pretty impactful.
Hey, Hey, I do want to give a shout out for the little guys, man. Devontae Smith is a little guy, man, and
he is little.
He gives the little guy some hope.
He is quick, man. Is quick as lightning. I will give that to him.
So
I think he's done okay. He's done pretty well on the next level too. I thought he did.
He's just gonna get better and better. But my Ole Miss boy AJ Brown's up there. He's doing pretty good. But it's always the Ole Miss boys. They know what they're doing. But, Sylvester, back to NIL. How has NIL affected personal branding and career development, you think?
Oh man. Hey, I think it's taking the personal branding through the roof. You know what I mean? Like, you can create your own brand if you have the right swag, if you have the right just personality. You can really make a name for yourself and own it. You know what I mean? Nobody owns that but you. And I think a lot of guys have really embraced that. If Coach Prime would have had that back when he played, he was like one of those people that created his own brand and lived through it. If he would have been able to capitalize on it, which he's trying to still do now, you know what I mean? Man, he's the person that really set the mold for that.
It's awesome seeing all these athletes like Jared Ivey at Ole Miss has his own podcast. He's all the team on. He had Kiffin on, Travis Hunter even. Shiloh.
Man.
All those guys. Those are
Will, one of my main goals for this podcast is one day to make it for high school level kids to be able to broadcast their name on here. What better way to be able to talk about your talent and stuff through a podcast? We're coming to that part of technology in life that technology is not going anywhere. It's going to be a part of our life in every aspect that we see.
Embrace it.
Do we need to channel it in a certain way where it doesn't make us lazy? Of course, but we also need to channel it to our best of capabilities, because it's a powerful thing, man. And if you use it to your advantage, just like here we're at the Prowler, we're doing with the AI.
Yep.
There's no telling where you can land. You might not be the flashiest receiver, but if the right coach sees you, he might think he could develop you into something at the D1 level. So
absolutely.
So I think the leaders in the NIL, it's I think Arch is up there. It's Arch. Quinn and Jackson Dart both signed deals with Nicholas Air. It's a private jet. It's a jet travel company. It's all just going through the roof, and I think it's great because they all have their own brands. Like, they all have making clothing lines and all this stuff. They're definitely using it to the best of their ability, and I think it's awesome.
I just hope some of the guys realize where they came from and reinvested in where they came from, because they should want it to make it where other kids can do the same cycles they did. Yeah. Don't let the money go to your head and not forget where you came from. That's all I gotta say.
Yep.
But so Sylvester, what advice can you give these current athletes navigating the NIL landscape?
Just do your research. Don't be quick to make a decision. Make sure that you're in a good situation where you don't have a long-term commitment that's going to affect you, across different, age ranges. Like, if you go from high school, I have a deal for just high school. If you go to college, just go 4 years at a time at the most, and just have fun. Be who you are. You know what I mean? This is the best time just to be who you are, because that's what's going to shine through in these social media aspects that are going to be what catapults you to the top of whatever it is. Hey, if you're a guy that likes fishing, hey man, fish, man. Do the things that you like to do, and allow that to take you to the top of, and then essentially you're not doing anything for money, so to speak. You're doing the things that you like to do.
Right. And you look at the guys in the NFL, you don't ever see a commercial longer than a year with them in it. You don't ever like Hulu, discount double check, Aaron Rodgers. And And they have connections to those guys now. If you're getting those big deals, you definitely have connections to those guys in the NFL. So maybe figure out what they did, how they navigated it all, and just learn from that. But I think it's great that, like you said, Sylvester, have a deal for high school, college, and then once you get to the NFL, you're gonna have all these guys, agents, doing it for you. But how do you think the NIL will evolve in the future?
Man, I think they're gonna try to lock it down in some kind of way. I really don't foresee how that's to take place. And apparently it's why Nick Saban wanted to retire, because it's like such a free-for-all and it's unpredictable for the traditional coach, So I think it may open the door for younger coaches to maybe get involved in some of the traditional organizations where coaches have been long tenured, because you're going to have to be able to relate to the young guys now, and in order to get them to perform. And it may just be through some of the stipulations of the NIL that you're creatively bringing to the athletes.
Right. That definitely, Saban he was an old school, he was straightforward.
He was just used to being the only guy that was able to pay the books. That's all I'm thinking that he got mad about,
Bro, Preston.
He was being the only guy that could do it, so.
Hey, but that's kind of from the era that I grew up in, man. So yeah, man, I kind of respect those coaches, man. I just, for some reason, for those guys to be able to get you to perform, man, I love it.
Saban talked about it. The reason he retired is because all the players kept on asking, how much money are you going to pay me?
Yep.
And he used to, the parents are asking, how much money are you going to pay him? Instead of asking, how are you going to change him as a man? How are you going to mature him as a man, as a player? And I think that's why he retired.
I think the ultimate thing is also what ended Saban's career as a transfer portal. I don't think it was so much NIL. I think it was that you constantly had to recruit these players, even if they're already on your team, to stay.
Mm-hmm.
It's
just, it's a part of it now. You're having to adapt, and Kiffin's doing a great job of it. Kirby's not. It's okay. But so that's why I get the Bulldogs.
No, that's good. That's good. You get those jabs in there, Will. I see you, man.
Hey, I can't lie. Kirby's he's gonna have to lasso the guys back in because they're running wild over there.
Well, I will say this: Kirby's not really. I think I saw something. Kirby's not really big on NIL. He wants them to come to Georgia.
Yeah, why do you think he's had players like Ladd McConkey, Stetson Bennett, and those guys come through there? They ain't no flashy names,
They're getting money though. Trust me.
They are. Yeah, now they are. Yeah, for sure. But they weren't no flashy names coming in there like Jalen Milroe is at Alabama. What's another guy? Caleb Williams that just left out of USC. They were none of those guys kind of caliber names. So.
Yeah, but I think overall NIL is a great opportunity because these players are going out there and they are risking their career out there on the field, and it's a full-time job. And they definitely deserve some money to be out there, that's for sure. But I think today Preston's going to cover the Prowler Spotlight that we have today.
So I was just curious on the Spotlight this week. Sylvester's going to touch on NIL again, but, I've seen it kind of causing erosion of the amateurism model. And the reason I say that is due to the influx of money that could blur the lines between the amateur level, which is college, right, and professional level, because now they both can almost be paid. Actually, there is some players getting paid more than the NFL players now, So, how do we – I see the pros being that they're getting their education still, but then the cons is like we're seeing players play into their 6th and 7th year in college football now, It's just like, how is that fair to the 19-year-old that's coming in from high school, So.
Oh, it makes it more competitive, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a real good question. Yeah. And I'm glad the Olympics are taking place right now too. So that may be a good example of the quote unquote amateur ranks and how it's evolved to the professional that's able to participate and win for the country. So it is a blurred line where there's gray areas. And we just hope that a lot of the athletes are they love what they do, you know.
Yeah.
And if they love what they do beyond the money and the opportunity that it could potentially bring, then that keeps the integrity of it being an amateur type of outing or sporting event. But yeah, man, they're getting paid now, so I don't know if you can consider it to be an amateur. Amateur may be a little league now, since high school is the next level into where you're able to get paid.
Do you think if the NFL would have created like a minor league or a G League that the NBA and MLB has, that this could have been prevented in college sports?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I don't know, because guess what? Football is the only sport where you take a risk on every play because it's full speed and it's
because I feel like we're seeing this more. Most of the discussions that take place with NIL transfer portal is within football atmosphere. Yeah, we see it impact baseball, basketball, and other areas, but the main area we're seeing it affect and have its side effects is the football realm of things. Can we all agree?
Yeah.
So
my dad and I have talked about this. I feel like the NCAA is like kind of with NIL. Well, first of all, I don't think many people knew how big college football was until NIL came around. Because there's big money in college football now. You know, a good quarterback in college football is worth $2.5–3 million. And then I think the NCAA is trying to make it the smaller schools are like the farm league of the NCAA, and it's feeding to all these big schools. You know, because once that player leaves, you know, because some of these 3 stars, all these pretty good players, they're all going to smaller schools sometimes. Because, they're still getting money there, but they're kind of feeding to these bigger schools for, you know, it's kind of like that. Now, I feel like that's what NCAA was kind of trying to, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but like it's like MLB, you know, minor leagues and, you know, the farm league, stuff like that, you know, feeding to like the bigger organization.
You know, that's why I preach to a lot the kids that I've had in my Prowler database system is, even if you don't get that D1 opportunity, don't deter away from that opportunity at D2 level, because that you can go there and grow at a good D2 program. Like West Alabama was a dang good program in Alabama. West Georgia was just a D2 program. Now they're D1 FCS. So who's to say you can't get bumped up to that level? You know, it's never close that door and never look down on those schools, because there's also a lot of NFL talent that's came out of the D2, Division II, and Division III level, you know. I mean, heck, back on the podcast with Brandon Rimbert from Faulkner, he went from NAIA to JUCO in baseball to then D1 level, and then has now transitioned into an MLB scout for a major league team, you know.
Nice.
So, you know, everybody's got that path, you know, so you can't ever shut the door.
Use it to the best of your advantage. And I think it's great if you go JUCO right out of high school. Doesn't matter how big. I think it's great. You know, I thought it was starting to change when Travis Hunter followed Deion to Jackson State. You know, going to the smaller school, and you know Deion completely transferred that program to not a powerhouse, but you know, better than it was. And that was the number 1 recruit in class going to. What is Jackson State FCS?
Yeah, FCS.
Yeah. And so I think it's definitely starting to turn into that, but we'll see what happens. I think as it goes year by year, it'll start becoming more obvious in a way. You know, that's what they were trying to do. But y'all got anything else to touch on, or?
No, I think that those were really good comments by Sylvester on the NIL perspective. Because
I think there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it, and it's very complex. And these kids definitely need to, you know, get a handle on it and learn more about it. But well, thank y'all for tuning into the Prowler Podcast. We look forward to continuing to expand your awareness of our platform, and look forward to partnering with those who are serious about playing their sport at the next level. And our weekly quote: Calvin Johnson. Sylvester knows Calvin Johnson, Megatron. His quote is, "You can't get down and think things won't get better, or they definitely won't." Hey, maybe we can get Megatron on here.
Yeah, get those yellow jackets on here together.
Yeah, man. I'll see about making a call or something like that. See if we can get a hold of him.
That's my favorite receiver all time, besides Jerry Rice and Randy Moss.
Hey man, that's my man right there. Hey, Jerry Rice is probably my favorite of all time for sure.
That's my dad's Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. That's my dad's favorite.
Nice. Yeah, what a combination.
But well, on our upcoming podcast, we'll have more active players and coaches and former coaches and players, and we look forward to seeing y'all next week. And as always, Prowler up, and thank you again, Sylvester, for coming on and sharing your knowledge. And you play for the better team in Georgia, so.